little over a week ago, Oprah put out a podcast called Oprah Explores the Rising Trend of Going No Contact with Your Family, where she talks to children and parents who have been estranged from their parents and kids. And while I am not a psychiatrist, a therapist, whatever, I don't have those credentials, I feel like I can relate to children, especially who do go no contact with their parents. Just to give a little backstory, I guess, of my personal life, there was a time when I was in high school where I thought when I went off to college, I was never going to talk to my mom again. I did not have a good relationship with her, and I would argue I still don't have like the best relationship with her. I really, when I went off to college, I just wanted to never speak to her again. I'm laughing because, I don't know, it's just an awkward situation to talk about. But I can relate to not wanting to really talk to your parents again, and also not be beholden to them financially or whatever it may be. So I can very much relate to that feeling and why people want to do that. And like I said, while I am not a psychologist, after I watched this podcast, I did also then go and watch Psychology with Dr. Anna. She makes great videos where she talks a lot about going no contact and why people go no contact with their parents and kids and whatever. She also has great resources if you do want to go watch somebody with more credentials than me. And I'll probably be referencing some of her videos and takes within this as well. So right off the bat, I want to discuss the word trend. Like I said, the title is called Oprah Explores the Rising Trend of Going No Contact with Your Family. And before I saw the full length video, I saw a social media clip on Instagram that she had posted with the word trend in there. And that seems to be the thing that for some reason, I thought people were going to have more nuanced conversations in the comments than this, but all of them really seem to revolve around that specific word. And I wanted to give the specific definition for the word trend. Trend is a general direction in which something is developing or changing. Now, I don't care to deeply defend Oprah. However, I don't think the word or the intention with using the word trend is how people made it out to be. I think the TikTokification of all of our brains has ruined the word trend, where people just assume they mean like trendy or cool or whatever, stuff like that, like a viral moment. I don't think Oprah was trying to imply that this is something trendy that people are just doing for funsies because they saw it on TikTok. I think she meant a general trend in the sense of a graph trending upwards, like she kind of says at the beginning, she references studies of the rise of going no contact, I think, with kids now. So I think she just meant that trending upwards in the sense of more people are feeling comfortable going no contact with their families. Like I said, I don't care to deeply defend her. She could have been, her team or whoever made that decision to use that word, it could have been complete rage bait and they were using it to get clicks or comments, or it could have totally been engagement bait. Possibly, I don't know, it could be both. I think people forgot that trend doesn't just mean trendy as in cool or fashionable, like it can also mean just a general trend upwards or downwards. I just found that to be kind of funny that was like the main takeaway I feel like everybody took from this video was just that specific word. I agree, it probably was not the best word, but I just am like, really, this is what we're gonna get hung up on. But getting into the video, I don't know how much of this video I'm gonna be able to include within this video because it is Oprah and I don't know how trigger happy she is on YouTube, but I guess we'll find out. I'm gonna try to include as much or at least screenshots of the episode so that way you can generally know what I'm referring to. So Oprah starts off the video by introducing 3 therapists who have either written books or have channels dedicated to talking about this no contact situation that's happening. I won't call it a trend. And right off the bat, I like the 2 ladies that she included on the panel. However, the guy, while I appreciate he's coming from a different perspective as somebody who right off the bat, he tells everyone his kid went no contact with him for a little while, but we kind of see his bias like right off the bat because he basically admits that like he thinks that kids are just going willy-nilly no contact with their parents because it's just cool or something.
Back in the day, meaning 80s, 90s, the aughts, the very idea of having a disagreement with your family and the very idea of divorcing your parent or removing yourself from a toxic situation was a foreign concept to people. But now it's like common understanding.
It's common understanding. It's also positioned as a sort of virtuous act of protecting our mental health. And you know what? Sometimes it is. There are truly abusive, difficult parents and family members. But there's a lot of people getting estranged today who aren't abusive, who are loving, decent, hardworking, loving, caring parents, and they're being cut off. And therapists are sort of green-lighting a lot of estrangements, particularly when you use language like, oh, your mom's a narcissist, or your dad's a borderline, or they're a sociopath, they're gaslighting you, or they're a boundary crosser. And once you say that to somebody, once you tell somebody that their parent or their family member or their child is that way, you just greenlit them cutting them off. Because now it's a virtuous act of protecting their mental health. I think that's a problem.
Just totally invalidates somebody for going no contact with their parents. I think there can be toxic children too who rile up the situation, which we'll get to later because there's a lady they talk to in that kind of similar situation. But I think to kind of dismiss people's issues with their parents as just they're doing it because it's cool or something is just really dismissive and weird and is just trying to like invalidate people's experiences. That was one thing that Psychology with Dr. Anna on her channel she's talked about, is that for the most part, most kids who go no contact with their parents, it's not just out of the blue. They've actually really tried to communicate their issues with their parents, and they just always kind of get shut down, or their parents don't really take in what they're saying because they don't really want to believe that the problem is them. Like I said, I feel right off the bat, he is kind of coming in with his own personal biases and just kind of making it like, oh, well, it's just a trend on TikTok and there's no real reason to go no contact with your family, which is just not true, as we'll see. I will add, I think that he did make a good point in that I think people get caught up in, like, a lot of these people have posted on TikTok, and I'm sure when you're, screaming into a void of people who all feel the same way you do, obviously your personal bias is just going to get confirmed over and over again, because you're going to find that group of people who agrees with you, who have experienced the same thing. And while that may make you feel like you're not alone, it also can just dig a deeper hole in your mind of like, I'm right, they're wrong. Then Oprah moves on and starts talking to the three kids that are there to talk about their estrangement from their families. And the first ones she talks to are Chris and Bree. I think Chris and Bree are the two who I feel like were some of the most open, especially on the children's side, about their experience with both of their parents. Chris talked about in his childhood how he was always pushed by his parents to be the best and the best, go to the best schools, get the best grades, be the best in sports. And when he met Bree, he felt like they weren't fully accepting her as his girlfriend and just were kind of apathetic to her in his life. And then eventually when they announced that they were getting engaged, he then went on to say that his parents try to break them up, go to their friends and break them up, or to stop the marriage from happening, basically. She also alludes to something happening at her bridal shower or bachelorette party, I'm not really sure. And basically, since they've been married and have kids, they've just been no contact with them for 4 years. And even Bree goes on to say that her family was very religious and strict. It even sounds like there might be political views that didn't totally align, that just made it impossible for them to have a relationship with either sides of their family, which is really crazy. I can't believe that they don't have contact with either side. That's got to be really hard, especially with, I think they had 2 or 3 kids now. I think it was just 2 maybe. But it seems like there is obviously, at least in my opinion, good reason here as to why they went no contact. It seems like both the families are really not willing to like accept his wife into their life, his wife, the mother of their children, into their lives. I think that's why it's hard to hear one of the therapists say that people just do it for no reason, when obviously over years they've tried to do this and it just didn't work out, and now they have kids and their grandparents aren't even in their lives.
When you hear that they're conspiring with your friends, what'd you do? You have a conversation about it?
Yeah, we have a conversation about it. I very much grew up in a house where, again, because of that performative aspect, there was a compliance aspect.
Yeah.
And so, frankly, something I've had to really work on and grow in is being comfortable in that conflict. And at the time, I wasn't really. I could bring that up. I'm unhappy with this, but am I going to really pursue that? And the answer is no.
So did you reach a point where you felt if I don't comply, then they don't love me unless I'm complying?
That's right. Yeah, I would say I'm not accepted unless I'm complying.
Not accept. Okay.
One thing Chris touches on here that I also has gotten brought up with on the channel with Dr. Anna is that when they hear the word respect, they mean just like respect for your elders, just because you're older or whatever, that you just demand respect. When younger generations don't necessarily think of respect in that way. And clearly here, there's no mutual respect for their choices because they're adults now. They're getting married and you're trying to break them up. There's no respect there. I think there gets to a point with older parents where they still don't look at their children as adults and not children. And so they don't really take their choices as adults seriously. And they still try to control and manipulate their kids, even as adults. It's really crazy to me that both of them have been no contact with either side of their family. That's gotta be really hard. And so I guess that's why I get upset at the one guy for being like, it's just willy-nilly, because I don't think they would choose this if things were different. I don't think this would be the road they would want to go down. It's just the unfortunate path that their lives have taken. I don't think most people really want to do this with their families, especially when you have kids. It's like, yeah, I don't want my kids to grow up without grandparents. That's not cool. Like, that's not fun. And it's not fun for them. And it's also got to be confusing for them to, at a certain age, it's like, well, why does, Susie have, she gets to see her grandparents and I don't really have those. It's like, that's got to be rough and have that awkward conversation. Then the next girl they talk to is Bristol, who she's also been estranged from her parents for over a year. She doesn't really go into depth of what exactly happened with her parents. It's kind of hard to really dig deep into her story because she didn't share a ton of it. So I don't know, I'm just gonna kind of glaze over that one. And then the third lady they talk to is also named Bree. Her mom basically was never really present in her life and has ruined special moments like her graduation for her. So she just has felt really disconnected from her mom her whole life. Once again, I feel like a totally valid reason to not want to interact with your parent, especially when they ruin special times for you and make it about themselves. One thing I'm surprised that didn't get talked about more in depth, and maybe because they just didn't really want to talk about politics, I'm surprised that politics didn't get brought up more. I feel like if anything, that is a reason why this is trending, so to speak, is because I think a lot of young people realize their parents have very bad views. Bree, the first girl who's married to Chris, kind of lightly touched on her family has extreme political views that she didn't agree with, but they didn't really go into depth about it. Probably for the best, but at the same time, I do think that's a big reason why a lot of young people are not talking to their parents anymore. I truly believe that Trump being president has really irreparably damaged the psyche of so many parents or just people in general in this country. And it's really hard to have a relationship with somebody who puts a president above you. Another show I watch is The Necessary Conversation, and they have also had times with their parents where they really don't, not that they've gone fully no contact, but they have talked about how they really just didn't have that great of a relationship with their parents for a really long time. And so they started the show as a way to talk to their parents more and talk out their beliefs. And while they don't agree, and I'm not sure they'll ever agree on anything, the host of the show, Chad, talked about how he was like, I don't want Trump basically to have power over my relationship with my parents. Like, I'm not gonna let him be the reason of all people that I don't see my parents or don't talk to them. Even though there's always a lot of people in their comment section who tell them to cut them off or whatever. He's like, no, I'm making a effort, even though I don't agree with them and I've had issues with them. They've also talked about their personal childhood, which at times was abusive, but at the end of the day, they're choosing to value their relationship with their parents over the relationship that their parents have with Trump. Even though the parents might not feel like that, but I appreciate him for trying and trying to have a relationship with his parents rather than just pushing it to the side and pretending it's not happening. And I also think it's good, he also talks about wanting to document the MAGA mindset, and I also think that's very fascinating for people to see, is just how people like that think. And you can kind of also start to see why people go no contact when their parents act like them. I'm sorry. But I do think it's a fascinating show to watch. Also, if you want to study the MAGA mindset. So I also recommend that show. I've been binging it lately. I love it. And now we're going on to the parent side of things. Now, I think this is where the conversation gets more interesting, because the first lady they bring, definitely I feel like you can see the signs as to why their child might have gone no contact. Another thing that Dr. Anna talked about was sometimes people don't realize that they're displaying the signs of why that person might have gone no contact when they're trying to garner the sympathy. I was also interested because this lady has a whole TikTok dedicated to her child going no contact with her. I tried to go and find it just to see like what other things she was talking about, but she has since either deleted her page or made it private. I'm not really sure, but you can still see some of her videos circulating from other people, like duetting or things like that. So let's watch this video.
Well, we have some parents here who have a different perspective. First, watch this short clip of what a mother named Christy posted on her social.
So I'm going to ruffle some feathers with this one, but I don't care. So I'm going to address a comment that repeatedly gets commented on my posts and other people talking about estrangement. And it's the comment that says, "Your children are not estranging from you to hurt you. They're doing it to protect themselves." I call BS. What are they protecting themselves from with us? Loving parents who've always supported them, loving parents who's always, done everything in their power to be there for them, who financially has supported them, who has went out of their way and put their life on the back burner for their kids. What are they protecting themselves from?
It's kind of funny because I don't even think she realizes that she's displaying, like when I watched that, I was like, yeah, you might want to take a look in the mirror, because I can't believe she put that video out as like, ooh, got him. I think there might be a TikTok war going on here, because I think she also mentions that her child has a TikTok where she talks about her estrangement, and then the mom's clearly has a TikTok about her estrangement. So it's like, clearly there's like this war maybe going on between them, and maybe this is not the best example, but I find that parents of that age group or older tend to they kind of hold financial support, any type of love, support in that way. They kind of hold it over the kid's head as like, I demand respect because I've done X, Y, and Z for you. And it's like, well, I was a child. I didn't, it's like, I didn't ask to be born. I don't have a decision in, the financials and things like that. It's kind of hard to communicate with somebody who just always wants to look at themselves as the kind of martyr for, it's like, oh, I've given my whole life to you. And it's like, but I didn't ask you to become a parent. I didn't ask to be born. I didn't control that. I'm just here now and I'm doing the best I can. And even with parents, it's like, there's a certain degree, it's like, no parent is perfect. No parent is going to do it 100% perfectly and never make a mistake. But I think this type of parenting on the extreme end of there can be abuse or withholding love or whatever, and using financial support to make somebody feel bad. I think now younger generations, like millennials and younger, have swung so far in the other direction. And now there's the gentle parenting issue, because we've grown up with this very aggressive side of things. And now it's we're overcompensating with the gentle parenting, when sometimes you do have to put your foot down. But I don't know at what point we're gonna go back to equilibrium, or if we ever will get there. I find that now we've swung so far in the other direction that kids are just kind of getting away with hell at the same time. So I don't know. I'm not a parent though. So I will say this lady does start to talk about her relationship with her kid too. And I do feel like they kind of subtly, even though they're trying not to rock the boat too much in this interview, they do subtly kind of put her a little bit in her place, saying I think you might want to do some self-reflecting here, because I don't think it's just your kid's fault, because she's solely blaming the kid. And it's kind of funny too, because she doesn't even really talk about or admit. It's funny, she said she had gone no contact with her kid in the past, or her kid, I guess, had gone no contact with her in the past over a divorce, and took the dad's side. And then she kind of came back, reunited, and now she's in no contact again, and she claims it's because she didn't get her way. Like I said, I don't know if there's just a war happening between them on TikTok and that's the situation or what, but I don't know. Some of the verbiage that she uses, and then she also tries to use her two other sons as well, they love me and, they say I'm not doing anything wrong, so I can't possibly be in the wrong. It's like, well, that's not true. Especially since I think the girl is probably the oldest. I don't know. I'm kind of assuming that based off of what she's saying. I don't know. I think sometimes the oldest kid just gets sometimes the shit end of the stick that's coming from an oldest child. But
You've had no contact with your daughter now for what, 3 years?
My daughter, yes. She's estranged from my side of the family 3 times in 7 years. The last estrangement came as a shock because we had reconnected for 2.5 years. I let my guard down. We got matching family tattoos, beach vacations with me and her brothers. And so I thought, we made it. We're golden. We're not. I'm not going to lose her again. And bam, a little conflict happened and out the door.
Once again, like a little conflict, like dismissing kind of the issue. And sorry to keep bringing up Dr. Anna, but this is just something she's talked about where it's like there's this dismissiveness of like you don't believe your child can fully make the decisions for themselves, and just invalidating their feelings as like they just did it willy-nilly and they're just being a little brat. It's like, okay, I don't think so.
It was something so minor. And she refused to communicate with her brothers and I. She's cut my mother off, the only grandmother she's ever had, who's completely heartbroken. Her brothers don't have a sister. And in the beginning, the first estrangement, I will give, it wasn't her fault. She was 17, 18 years old. I went through a divorce. She felt she had to choose, and she didn't choose me. We worked through that, and she explained some things to me, and I understood it. But now she's 25, almost 26. She knows I'm a good person. She even, we made TikToks together. She made me beautiful
even the looks in the crowd, it's just kind of funny to see other people's reaction, because I don't think she fully is aware of how she's coming across, and people who have experienced that are probably like, I understand why, because you're hearing those kind of like buzzwords or the things that are triggering the like little red flags to go off in your brain, like, I don't know if I side with you too much. That also leads into the second lady that they bring in, who is estranged from her son. And the first thing she says right off the bat when she stands up to talk is...
So we have another mother here, Kendall. Kendall?
Yes, I am estranged from my 30-year-old son by choice. And what I do notice, even in the room, when the children were speaking, people were kind of nodding and agreeing with them. But the moment Christy started telling her side of the story, people were kind of like, you know what I'm saying? My platform speaks similar to hers on behalf of the parent, because parents are suffering in silence. And when children become estranged, they are celebrated, they're supported, people rally behind them. But when their mother decides to go no contact with her child, she's demonized. Mm-hmm. And that's been my experience.
Now, I don't think she's making a bad point here. However, she goes on to tell her story of why she is estranged from her kid, how her son has basically, it sounds like they've gotten to physical and verbal altercations, and the son demands money from them, just totally takes advantage of her and her husband. And that is a very different situation, and is very valid as to why you would cut your kid off, as compared to the other lady, I forgot her name, Christy, who her kid cut her out of her life because it seems like there's some emotional manipulation going on there, as compared to this lady who's like, yeah, your son sounds like kind of an a-hole, and I don't blame you totally for like cutting him out of your life. That doesn't make you a bad mom. But I understand her obviously wanting to like stand up for the parents. I'm sure there are parents who probably get screwed in this situation and get guilted into feeling a certain way, feeling like shitty parents, when I just think every case is a little unique. It's not like a one-size-fits-all thing. Like, Christy could also have shit that probably makes her blameless or not, and I'm sure there's things Kendall has done and she's probably regretted it or whatever, It's not a perfect situation. And we're human. And then the third parent they bring in is a guy named Aaron, and he talks about how him and his daughter have reconciled. They were estranged for a period of time, and his daughter came to him and just said, you're a helicopter parent. You're too much. You need to back off. You need to let me live my life. I'm an adult now. Like, just chill out. and they went to therapy, they've gotten through it. And I appreciate his take on it because I feel like he just kind of perfectly as a parent is like, I'm taking accountability for my actions, and we worked through it and we talked about it. I think that's sometimes the main thing with kids going no contact with their parents will not take any accountability for their actions because they say, well, I'm the parent, I can do whatever I want. That's not true. You can't just be a piece of shit and not and take no accountability. There has to be a little bit of, you have to be willing at least to acknowledge whatever issues or hurt that you've caused potentially and go to therapy, work it out in the therapist's office. But I think that tends to be a big issue with, like I said, boomer parents and the older generations. And this is not a blanket statement. I'm just saying in general, I feel like boomer parents, there's a lack of emotional depth there that they just don't really want to deal with. That's one thing that I've had an issue with my mom. I've had to come to the conclusion that I'm never really going to get to a certain level with her because she just really doesn't want to acknowledge any of the pain. And I understand it's hard and it hurts, but we're never really going to move past certain things if we don't go there a little bit and acknowledge the pain and the hurt that's happened. I think they just kind of want to bury it, and they don't want to unpack all that stuff. And it sucks, but like I said, you're never really going to move forward if you don't deal with it. Anyway, I think I've yapped just enough about this Oprah podcast. Let me know what you guys think in the comments about this podcast. I definitely encourage you to go and watch the whole thing. It was pretty interesting. She also put out another video where she talked about the male loneliness epidemic that I might talk about soon, because she's putting out a lot of things that I think are kind of interesting topics that people just aren't really talking about in this way. It kind of feels like the old Oprah talk show is back, but a little less rigid, I feel like, than daytime TV, which I kind of like, a little bit more open. So anyway, those are my thoughts. Like I said, let me know what you thought in the comments, and I'll see you next time. Bye!